So welcome everyone. I am Lorena Ramírez-López. I am the community manager for the Webrecorder team. I will let my colleagues present themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Ilya Kreymer. I'm the lead developer and the creator of the Webrecorder project. It's really great to have all you here, and we're excited to share what we're working on.
Hi, I'm Emma Dickson. I am a general developer on Webrecorder. Psyched to be here.
We're a small team, but we're a big community. So we're really happy for you all to be here with us. Please use the chat for any questions or any comments. We have 4 key tools. There's a lot of tools, but there's 4 key tools: replay web page, archive web page, PyWB, and browser tricks caller. This call, we're going to focus on archive web page because we have a new feature. It's pretty cool. So we're really excited to share it with you all. And the reason why we're excited is because one of our goals is to really make web archiving for all. We want to create open source tools so we can all web archive and have autonomy over our works and our collections. And so we might be familiar with web archiving, but just in case so we're all on the same page, Web Archiving 101. What is web archiving? According to the International Internet Preservation Consortium, IIPC, I highly recommend checking out their website. It's like web archiving for all. Web archiving is the process of collecting portions of the World Wide Web, preserving the collections in an archival format, and then serving the archives for access and use. So with Webrecorder tools, we help with capture, the replay, and basic and access. So why web archive? So in a study in 2012, they stated, well, it should be really updated because it's probably a higher number now, but they stated that after the first year of publishing, nearly 11% of shared web resources will be lost. And after that, we will continue to lose 0.02% per day. And considering the amount of information we put on the internet, that's a lot. And what's WARC? WARC is Web Archive Standard. It's a ISO standard. It's something that the field has recognized as it's the web archiving standard that we all recognize and are using for our work, our web archive collections. Okay, that being said, one of the tools is for capture, and I'll let Ilya or Emma take over to kind of describe what's happening.
Thanks, Lorena. Yeah, so I will I'll switch to sharing my screen, and I'll continue from there. I wanted to, first, thanks everyone for coming. I know this is, we usually have our calls at a different time zone, and so we decided to move it this time so that folks in Australia and New Zealand and Asia can make it. So folks that are coming to our calls for the first time, welcome. And in the future, we'll try to alternate our calls so that we can reach folks in different time zones. For our call this month, we wanted to show a brand new feature that we just launched basically about a week ago or so. Well, actually, the reintroduction of this feature into the latest Webrecorder tools. It's called the Autopilot system. And basically, Autopilot is basically a way of automating complex behaviors in the archive web page browser extension. Since if you use the extension, you know that it's sort of it works kind of very deliberately and manually. You kind of view the pages that you want to archive, and what's being archived is exactly what you view in the browser. And so that can, of course, get very tedious, especially when dealing with social media and other complex websites. And this is kind of a way to make that a little bit easier. And yeah, so I'll do a quick demo of some of the features of this new system and kind of show how you can use it. And so I will switch to my screen share here. Let's see. Then we'll continue. Yeah, so for example, let's just start with, yeah, so we basically have, Autopilot, have several site-specific behaviors, one of which is Twitter. And so if you have the archive web page extension installed, there's now a new option called Start with Autopilot. And I'll just create a new, call it, so I'll create a new collection here, and then I'll click Start. And so basically the page is reloading so that we get everything that, and in this case, as soon as the reload finished, the autopilot system is now running, and what it's doing is it's clicking through all of the tweets. In this case, I just searched for Webrecorder and the top tweets for that. And in this case, and this is actually showing, this is a little bit meta, it's just showing the old version of Autopilot that existed in Conifer as I'm archiving it in the extension right now. And so, and it's actually waiting for videos to finish. So if there's a video in your Twitter feed, it'll wait for the videos to finish before moving on to onto next tweet. And so again, this feature existed in Conifer and still exists, but one of the key differences with this new system, and I'll cover that later, is that we have a way of detecting when things break. And so it's sort of going through some old tweets here, and it automatically shows us, yeah, so there's some more videos here, and I'll just pause it. And in this case, I can just switch to the replay view, and I can search for this particular query, and I should be able to replay what was just archived. And so Twitter is, of course, one of the sites that we have this custom behavior for. We also have another site that we have is Instagram. And so if I turn on the same system for Instagram, so this is, for example, the Smithsonian, then it will go through the Instagram posts. And again, the way that this works is that we have to have custom scripts for each of the sites. And basically, yeah, it sort of requires kind of creating custom rules, essentially, that check for that depend on the structure of the site. And so here we have with Instagram, it is also so it's going through each post and it's scrolling through each of the comments, and yeah, so in this case, I think we have it configured to scroll for about, I think, either 10 or 20 seconds. And so if there's a whole lot of comments, it won't get all of them, but that's sort of a balance that we have with this, is to make it as easy as possible to just start archiving automatically and to be able to capture social media sites in particular. And so here we're scrolling through the comments. And so I'll pause it right here, and then I can switch to the replay, and you can see, so the Instagram page is now also here.
We got two questions in the chat.
Oh, sure, yeah. Maybe I'm going too fast, and maybe I'll pause
So
here.
we got asked, do you have to be logged into Capture, Twitter, and Instagram?
So for Instagram, yes, and that's sort of the reason for that is that sort of Instagram doesn't really allow you to use Instagram without logging in these days. But fortunately, with this extension, the way that this works is that it's running in your browser. So if you're already logged in, you could just start archiving. And this is kind of a key difference from kind of previous iterations, including with Conifer and the Webrecorder desktop. You had to kind of log in from scratch, which proved to be problematic in many cases. Whereas here, if you're already logged in, it can just start archiving exactly what you see. With Twitter, I believe that it does work in non-logged in mode, but I think eventually will rate limit you. Yeah, and so ideally, I think it's probably easier to use it when logged in. Also, since you're already logged in, it's not reporting the actual login credentials, which is also nice. So it's just sort of basically taking the page from exactly where you're at, which is already logged in. And yeah, and so this is kind of.
And we also got asked, Alfie had sort of two questions about the autopilot feature. Asked, is this primarily for Twitter and Instagram so far? And is Facebook on the horizon, or is that really not a possibility? So it's not just for Twitter and Instagram. It's just that those are sort of things that people tend to ask about. So we always try to show those in demos, but you can use it on other sites. I'm not sure about Facebook.
Yeah, so actually that was going to be my finale in a way. Is I wanted to show that we do also have a behavior for Facebook. It was sort of the last one that was recently added. I will add that Facebook is especially hard, and so I can't say that it works perfectly, but I think it does. I think it is possible to capture different types of pages. So there's timeline, there's also photos and videos, and so so just for and I think it's better to do things separately. I found that if you try to do too many things, like do a timeline and click on all the photos and videos, playing back. So playing back doesn't always work, and that's sort of the issue with Facebook is that it is especially hard to replay, even if you've captured the content, because of how Facebook works. They just have all these dynamic queries that make it really difficult to replay the content, even if it's a simple photo. And so in this case, I actually created a special profile that I'm logged into now because Facebook also doesn't work so well when you're not logged in. In fact, it has a completely different interface if you're not logged in. And so let's see how this works. So hopefully this is still, and so now I'm going to show.
So some sites are so difficult because they're constantly changing.
Right, and so you can see here. So what it does in this case is it goes to the timeline and it expands the comments. Just I think the first two set of comments, you could make it more, but that can take a long time. And this seemed like a good initial balance of what the behavior can do. It does not click on the photos right now intentionally because that seemed to mess up the replay. But we can go to the photos page separately and archive that, and I'll show this in a moment. And so again, this is so I just clicked start with Autopilot enabled. I can also pause if I wanted to wait for a certain while. And here in the stats counter, we also have kind of some basic stats of how much of not just the URLs, but also the posts, comments, and videos that have been archived so far. And so I'll just go ahead and pause. And again, I can also switch to the replay here by clicking Browse Archive, and now this appears here, and hopefully I will be able to, and yeah, with Facebook, it also has, there's so many different types of pages. There's pages, groups, profiles, and I think they mostly work, and they all have slight subtle differences. So let's see if this even works. It might not. Okay, yeah. So these comments expanded, and so I think eventually it will. If I just let it keep going, I think eventually the replay will not work. But I think so far the feed can go down fairly, at least for a few set of posts. And so let's see, and of course it only, at this point I stopped it here, so obviously I won't be able to capture anything past that. We could also try. So again, I think Facebook has actually gotten a little bit easier. I think their old UI was actually harder to archive. I think this new UI works a little bit better. And so yeah, let's try photos page. And if anyone has any, I'm just using the Smithsonian Institution as I've tested this particular page, but if anyone has any other sites to try, I can try that later. And so I actually have Autopilot enabled, and so when I went to the photos page, now it is going through each of the photos and expanding the comments. And so yeah, I think, yeah, basically I could just kind of let it run, and hopefully it will, we can see here sort of the number of photos and the number of comment expansions that it has captured so far. And so maybe I'll pause that, and just to show, yeah, so I'll pause that. And again,
Maybe we should also just go to like the Smithsonian site directly to see what it would look like using Autopilot outside of social media. Oh, we got a Facebook request for archiving.
Oh, sure.
It's in the chat.
Okay, well, maybe I will, how about I'll go and do videos just for this, and then we'll try another. And the videos actually also, so let's see what, and so the initial video always plays, and then what it tries to do, it tries to go through, and I'll try to mute this. And I believe it should be playing just the beginning of the video and then moving on. And in this case, it isn't doing that. So there might be something that needs to be tweaked. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and pause that. Actually, maybe I'll just stop it. And then, oh yeah, so one last final thing before I come back to Facebook is that if you do it on any other site, which we don't have a special rule, then it will just try to do a sort of infinite scroll. And a good example of that is actually Yahoo Answers, which is probably a lot of you might know is going away on May 4th. So if you run this on Yahoo Answers, what it will do is it'll just start scrolling. And we also have it so that if there's a show more button on a page, it will try to click that. Again, this was actually created for Yahoo Answers. It's not sure how journal that is, and of course it's only, right now it's only in English, so we'll only look for the word show more. But I figure that that's something that could help potentially with all sorts of sites that have infinite scroll, that might be a little bit easier to capture with this system. So yeah, so now it's basically kind of going down, and so So this answer has, this is from a question from Barack Obama from, gosh, I guess many years ago. And so it has many thousands of answers that the autopilot is clicking to expand. And
Yeah, that being said, not every website has the infinite scroll. Like,
right, and so
yeah, not every website wants you to suffer with internal scrolling. So the autopilot will work, but then I'll be like, I reached the end, now what? So
right, yeah, and just to emphasize, like this feature right now is just for automating a single page. It doesn't yet do crawling across multiple pages. That we are planning to add that in the future, but we're going to start with this, just basically having, yeah, kind of automating interactions in the page, which is a sort of the, the latest version of that, um, and yeah, and but in the future, we definitely would like to explore how we can make archiving even simpler. And
we
so
have
with
a
that,
question, sorry.
sure, yeah, and maybe, yeah, I can take a question. Sure.
A really good question from Joshua. Will autopilot work for Facebook Live?
Currently, that's a great question. I'm thinking possibly not, but yeah, it's something that we haven't had a chance to check yet. I think, yeah, I think that might require some additional work, especially with the video. But the videos that are being captured right now should work in replay. And I actually also, actually, Lauren, could you go to the last slide, and I'll stop my screen share because I actually don't have it up in this tab. There's one other thing I want to say about Autopilot. And
You want me to switch screens?
yeah, if we could share that.
All right.
Yeah, so this is kind of and oh yeah, I didn't get a chance to show this this great. Thanks, Lorena, for finding this image, which I think captures what auto scroll does pretty well. And yeah, yeah. So this is sort of a key thing that I wanted to cover as well, is sort of what happens when sites change, and they inevitably will change and things will break. And so in this new system, we actually have daily testing of all the behavior. So this is new. This is something that we didn't have with Conifer and Webrecorder desktop. So sometimes things would break and we wouldn't know when. And so now we actually have daily testing that runs on GitHub Actions, and you can actually, yeah. And so these tests run some of these predefined behaviors, so which includes Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, different types of Facebook pages, and also auto scroll, and they test when something breaks. And so, in fact, just yesterday, we noticed that the Facebook videos behavior broke, and so that tells us that capturing the videos might not work as expected. And so I noticed that, for example, the videos don't move from one video to the next as quickly as I expected it. And yeah, so I need to look at it again and figure out what's breaking. And that's probably kind of sort of the best that we can do in helping users manage expectations, so that you can kind of see what is working and what isn't, based on yeah, basically based on these daily tests, which are available from the behaviors repo on GitHub, and also from the behaviors page on our guide. And yeah, because essentially these, yeah, I mean that's sort of best that we can do, because they Instagram Facebook and Twitter, we know from past experience, will update their site, and they will kind of result uh, in these behaviors breaking. And yeah, and that's kind of our best a solution for this is just to have kind of daily tests and be able to report to you when we know that things break. So yeah, so I'm excited about this, and we hope to add to these daily tests so that we can test more and more functionality. Yeah, and so I think that yeah, I guess we can probably take more questions, and I could also do a test of another Facebook site if that's if that would be helpful.
We did get a request for a Facebook Protect Wanakia in the chat.
Sure. Yeah, let's try that. And
I'll let you take over the screen again.
sure.
And yeah, feel free to add any questions in the chat. If you want to unmute yourself, please, and feel comfortable doing so, please do so. But Emma and I can also read your questions if you want.
So I'm trying to find. Oh, okay, here it is. Yes, I have the link now.
You found it.
So yeah, and I'm using a different monitor now, so should yeah. So I will share my screen again, and there we go. And now I will try to. So yeah, so this capture will just be on the page itself, and could also try the photos later. But I think this should run on just the timeline itself. And so I'll give this a name. So I'll click start.
And you started with Autopilot.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, and so it yeah, so first it waits for the page to fully. Oh, maybe it didn't work. Well, so that's an example of, for some reason, maybe it didn't load as quickly as. So this time I'll try to. I'll just try to load it manually without Autopilot, and then I'll give it.
That looks right.
And then I'll give it a few more seconds, and then let's try now. So, no, it doesn't like it. So again, that's unfortunately with Facebook, something might be different in this layout.
Maybe because of the community.
Possibly, yeah. So I've tested on a few different types of pages, but hopefully it's a quick fix. So I'll have to, or maybe I can add it to our automated testing to, yeah, I think, right, because I think maybe this type of page is different than the other type of page. Yeah. So let's try photos just to see if it's, and again, I'm not entirely surprised because I was expecting this kind of thing with Facebook because each page is just slightly different. Like it looks the same, but something is slightly different. And so photos. Oh, no, looks like it got to the first photo, but then yeah, maybe not quite. So, well, so that means that I need to do a bit more work on Facebook, unfortunately. So I'll try it one more time.
We also asked if this would work for Facebook group.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I think it'll just it's something that will just take more work, and that's kind of it's like with Twitter and Instagram. they have much simpler UIs in the sense that they're more consistent.
Yeah, the annoying thing about Facebook is that basically to make it work, we have to add special cases for every type of object that they have. Like every sort of every group, every community, every sort of thing that you can create on Facebook has its own rules.
Yeah, unfortunately it's slightly different, or it's slightly different page layout. And so it's doable. It just takes a bit more work, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I feel like in general, for people who are like curious about whether something will work, honestly, the best thing is just to try it and what you can get in the replay webpage, because you can usually you're going to get something. You might not be able to get everything sort of conveniently and instantly, but you can definitely get stuff.
Right. Yeah. So definitely So I mean, you should still be able to do it manually. Of course, the goal is to try to automate this a little bit, and that's where the hard part, or the extra hard part, comes in. All of it is hard in a way when it comes to Facebook, but yeah. So I mean, okay. So got to the video, and should be moving on to the next video, but I think that there's some issue that means that it's waiting longer than it would otherwise. But yeah, so I mean, right, the simplest way is just to try it, basically, and to let us know either through the on GitHub or through the forum if something isn't working, and yeah, we'll try to respond in the best days. So this is still kind of a brand new feature, and yeah.
Do we know if somebody asked, will Autopilot capture video that doesn't autoplay? Like if it needs to be clicked to start, will Autopilot click it?
That's a good question. I think it really depends. So actually, Autopilot also tries to autoplay videos, and yeah, it really depends on the site. So for many sites, it will actually be able to autoplay it or grab the video stream. It's kind of it's a matter of testing. Yeah, so it sort of, the answer is it sort of depends, but just to be sure, it's better for it to start playing at least, and so that it tries to do that automatically. But in some cases, it will be able to capture it even without autoplaying it if the video URL is just in the page. The other thing that Autopilot does also is, if there are images of different resolutions, the Autopilot system will try to grab all versions of those images, and I think that works automatically in the background when Autopilot is enabled. So I'll stop it here, and so we'll just see what we ended up with. So the videos might have been able to grab some of the videos, and of course it's probably a little bit slower since I'm also on Zoom and screen sharing at the same time as doing the recording in the browser. But yeah, so this is it's probably loading a little bit slower than it would otherwise. Close this here. And so let's see if, so this is the initial video.
Buddy.
Yeah, I think my computer has gotten a little bit slow with everything I've been doing with recording.
We have two more questions. A user asked why some pages with sound recordings will download easily, but then there's others that it's not possible. Do some pages need special characteristics? If you have the website available, throw it in the chat so we can try?
Yeah, yeah, we can try it. Yeah. In general, sound should be, yeah, it shoots the audio in a similar way as the video tries to play it, and it should work if the, yeah, if, no, looks like this. Yeah, so if the audio starts playing, then there's a good chance that they get captured. And so far here, it looks like this initial video did get archived. These other videos probably did as well, but so just to show kind of how hard this is that even if it did get captured, the replay might not work. But we can actually go into kind of the resource view, and we can also have the ability to look at all of the different types of resources. So in this case, we could look at all the MP4s. So even if it doesn't play back in the page, we can select audio video here and can sort of see what all the videos are. So that's sort of another option, is that even if the Facebook replay isn't working, you can still get the raw data from the archive. But of course, ideally, it just works in the context in the page, but that might take a little bit longer to be able to get that to work consistently. But we can at least see that the data is there. Yeah, so maybe I'll stop sharing and answer more questions.
Yeah.
Again, this is all very new, so.
So we need more users. Test them out and let us know that it's not working.
We got a question from Jasmine. If Autopilot is running, will you mess it up if you click on something on the page? Will that interrupt it?
Yes, that's a good question. Generally, yes, because it expects for a specific, it expects a specific structure of the page. You can pause it if you want to look at something, but if you kind of change the view, that will generally interrupt it. And I think in Conifer there was an overlay over it. Right now, we're not doing that since it's an extension, so it's a little bit harder to do that. But generally, you shouldn't interact with the page while Autopilot is running, and maybe we can add some sort of disclaimer to it to just kind of leave it alone. Yeah, that's a good point.
And a question from Alfie: is it possible to fix those links, like pointing those broken links to the video file that was successfully downloaded?
I'm not sure if we understand the broken links in the Facebook page, probably.
I think he means like in the replay webpage, like collection. Can you go and basically edit the collection so that you can fix things? And the answer is no right now.
Yeah.
You would have to just recapture it.
Right. In general, yeah. I mean, if there's if you're talking about kind of if something doesn't work in the page itself, then it's pretty hard to. I mean, ideally, we try to make it work sort of in the context of the Facebook page. If it's not working there, the kind of going to the resource view is just another option. But you can actually you can link directly to the resource view. For example, if you wanted to embed a video from the archive collection, you could use the replay webpage embed with any URL, including just a video file. So in a sense, if you're within the replay webpage itself, it's not possible, but it's possible to link, to link to that URL from externally in the context of an embed.
I've also seen web archives where they will have, the web archive, and then the video won't work, but then there'll be a note saying, you can go to our video collection in order to see this file. And it's like, all right. So it's like combining web archive with the digital preservation of that video collection as well. So it's like imagining where it would be placed in that web page, but I've seen Web Archive do that as well.
I mean, yeah, and that's sort of a fallback. Ideally, we'll try to see what we can do to make that. But yeah, there are kind of fallback options, and it's sort of the important thing that the videos do get captured. But again, yeah, Facebook is especially challenging.
Alfie responded in the chat, and I think we answered the question. Although feel free to ask you or just be in the chat and correct us if we missed anything.
Yeah. So, any further questions?
There's one more question. Oh, there's two more questions that popped up. So one question is about downloading, which I think is a good question. That is there a recommended minimum of bandwidth in order to download information? They're asking because there's been a lot of pages where the pages block the download. So if it's something that's based on like the bandwidth where it's too much and it won't download, or it could be a lot of things, but that's a good way of trying to figure out what the issue might be.
Well, I think in terms of currently it tries to, at least for videos, it tries to wait for the videos to start playing. So that should wait for kind of, regardless of the bandwidth, for things like for both, well, yeah, I guess both for Twitter and Instagram, there is sort of a time period where it waits for new entries in the feed to show up. So it is possible that if your bandwidth is too low, it might think that it's done when it's not. So I think that, yeah, so actually it is kind of a tricky area to figure out sort of when is it done and when is it still loading new tweets or entries in the feed or new posts. And so I think that might require some additional tweaks. If you think that it's not finishing because of bandwidth, definitely let us know. Like if you think that it's taking too long to load and Autopilot is just finishing too quickly, that could be a bug that might be fixable just by waiting longer or trying to detect that better. But in general, it's kind of all of this is kind of trial and error, as you could probably tell. So it's sort of because these sites are dynamic and because there's so many variables, including the pages that you're visiting, your current bandwidth, how well the site is performing, I guess where you're located, if you're logged in or not. So there's so many variables. In a way, it's kind of, sometimes I'm kind of impressed that it actually works at all, to be honest. So, but we're trying to make it as useful as possible. But a system like this can never be perfect because of those, just because of the amount of variables involved.
We have another question, and then I have another link for us to test. So question is, do you find it works better in certain browsers? I notice sometimes Flash content doesn't seem to load in Chrome when trying to capture. Flash
Flash is dead.
RIP.
Yes, well, there is, yeah. So, but we actually do, and I think we didn't even mention that, but the extension actually also automatically loads the Ruffle Flash emulator. So if a particular Flash piece works in Ruffle, which is an open source emulator that's being written for Flash, then it will try to automatically load it with the Ruffle emulator. Of course, not every piece will work with Ruffle, so that there is that. But yeah, actually, using our car web page actually makes it easier to see if a page will work with Ruffle or not. They also have their own extension that you can install, but they basically bundle Ruffle into the archive web page extension. So Flash not loading could be related to that. In general, as far as browsers, how this works with any Chrome-based browser, it doesn't unfortunately work with Firefox because Firefox has a completely different extension system, but it should work with Chrome as well as Brave and Edge browsers. We also have the archive web page desktop app, which is basically the exact same system, but a standard kind of a standalone downloadable app that you can use if you, which may work better for certain sites, especially any Google sites that might have trouble in Chrome. But in general, yeah, I think any Chrome-based browser should work.
We got a new link. Ilya, you could do the demo, or
Oh.
want to try
Oh,
going to the driver?
sh-
Either or.
Sure. Does someone else want to try?
Try to do that.
So I mean, so this is a site that.
This is pure audio.
Cool. Yeah, let me share my screen. So let me.
My ad is different. My ad is about Vimeo rather than masks.
I just bought that exact type of mask because it's supposed. I have friends who keep telling me that it's the only one they have that works with glasses, that like actually works to not fog it up because it's silicone. So I am just getting extremely targeted ads for stuff I've already bought. Okay, so I just started with Autopilot. Let's see what we get. Okay, that's promising. So generally the URL, I try to look at the recording message always. So the URL pending is good because it means that it's detecting things that it needs to capture and it's sort of cycling through. So it's basically just like, it's analyzing the page. So as long as you're getting URLs pending, and you'll see the number vary pretty widely because it's, yeah, I've looked at that exact ring before because my wife loves those hand clasping rings. This site has like extremely targeted ads.
Yeah, so you can archive your personalized ads view with using this extension as well. I should also add that if you don't want to have any kind of personalized info in archive, you can also use it in incognito mode, and then yeah, you can basically open any incognito window and start using the extension there.
Yeah, I could have done that. I went on sort of a series of tabs that I had open already.
Yeah, and there's always, like, there's often just one URL that takes a really long time, and maybe.
Well, if it's an audio file, that's probably good.
Okay.
Getting idle.
Looks like it's.
Yeah, and when this is done, I'll browse the archive and we can see what we got, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, and I guess we're still waiting for Autopilot. Yeah, so Autopilot is kind of, it only is enabled after everything's done, kind of just out of, to be more cautious, I guess. But it is already archiving everything that's loaded so far.
This has got 263 URLs. Wow.
Yeah. It's interesting that, well, that could be a bug. Yeah, it seems like it should have been enabled by now, but for some reason it still says that it's waiting for page to load.
There's a difference between the loaded and stored. I wonder if it's just.
Oh, that's, yeah. So that's actually a good point, and that is because it's also deduplicating content. So if it loads something that it's already loaded, it won't store it again. So usually the stored amount is slightly lower than the loaded. But yeah, it's interesting that it didn't Well, I guess you could.
Want me to stop it and see what we have?
Can
Sure.
we?
Yeah.
This is just in the interest of time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and sometimes you could. And so again, the autopilot is only needed for. So I mean, autopilot would just scroll automatically to the bottom of the page, which we didn't do, but it may have already captured quite a lot. Yeah, it looks like it's.
Should I look for anything in specific?
Can you try pressing that play button, because that's a radio button that they're having live. So it shouldn't work because obviously it's not live anymore, but the button went away.
Oh, I think because I clicked on one of the links on the front page. Let me
Okay.
let me go back. I got there.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now I've gotten their API.
Well,
What was the original page? We weren't even going to the regular page. We were going to tagged. So if I click this button, it shouldn't work.
No, after a little moment, if we go back, see that just popped up.
yeah, I'm guessing it probably won't work since we didn't play that audio before. But
Yeah.
always good to check.
I'm not getting. It's just like it's not doing anything when I click it. I think it's just like sort of it got the image.
Yeah, it probably didn't work in this case. Well, sometimes so it sounds like you just have to. But it would be interesting to see if.
It's interesting that we got like we got who's broadcasting. We got like the name of the show.
Well, we didn't get Autopilot to start automatically, so it probably wouldn't have played the video. But yeah, we can definitely try again.
Yeah, can we try clicking on? Whoa, so this is all the backend stuff.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep bringing this up. This is just.
You can click on the page, yeah, and then.
So this is what I do when I get sort of accidentally stuck in a wormhole. I click the community name, and it sort of takes you back to the safe space that has
Yep, yeah, that should do it.
So this should all be an archive of some sort of sound bites. Can we try grabbing one?
Sure. Let me see. So I would restart it. The page actually didn't fully load for me. Let me try.
I think that's probably part of the issues. I just didn't finish loading in this case. So yeah, sometimes you just have to try again.
I'm also in North Carolina, and the American South does not have great Wi-Fi internet access, so that's might be part of it.
I can also try it on my end to see how.
It's weird because it's like the refresh button says that it's Let me try a new incognito window just quickly, see if that. Okay. Let me share the new window that I'm in.
Yeah, so we like to do lots of live demos and on unexpected sites during our calls, so you can see how well or not things work. So
will it give me access to my plugins if I go in incognito?
You have to enable it. Yeah, so that's actually good. Yeah, you have to go into the. There's a special option in the extensions to enable it to be used in incognito mode. So we'll definitely try this page again. Well, okay, yeah. I just want to be mindful of the time since.
Yeah, we can do this. I'm kind of curious, and I want to. There's a lot of radio sites that I really like listening to radio, so now I kind of want to see what it does.
Yeah. So we can. So maybe for next time we can. Test this out and see how it goes. In the past, we also had a behavior for SoundCloud, which is something that can be added. And so if there's other sites besides Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter that you would like to see behaviors for, let us know as well. Obviously, we'll probably focus on kind of very sort of commonly used sites that everyone will benefit from. But yeah, definitely let us know in either the forum or via GitHub or by email. And yeah, I think yeah, thank you. I don't know if there's anything else to